Hello everyone, I am Dr. Didi and you are joining with Dr. Didi India. Today we are going to discuss about the average student versus a topper student. So the difference between the study patterns and the results of an average student and a topper student. So I have myself been an average student, and from a position of being an average student, I continuously worked on myself and developed myself onto a topper so that I entered the medical college and then became a doctor. So I'm gonna discuss that certain specific pathway where you can turn yourself from an average student's position into a topper student. Because in this narrative, I want to highlight that you don't have to focus on being a topper, but rather you have to focus on not be an average student. You will understand while we go through the video how not to become an average student. Then of course you can become a topper rather than focusing on becoming a topper. So basically we'll open with the biggest reframe that we have to have, because everybody thinks that being a topper is about studying more and more hours. Some students think to become a topper you have to study at least 12 to 14 hours per day. So the average student might be studying 2-3 hours per day. The topper might be studying 12 to 14 hours per day. Not only the students, the parents and the tutors, everybody thinks this is the fact. But I would suggest that it is rather a big lie that we have in our society, because the average Indian student usually studies about 6 to 7 hours per day. The effective studying. I'm not talking about the amount of time you spend reading the book and everything. It comes down to how many hours and how much time you put active effort into your study. So that vaguely it's around 6 to 7 hours per day. So average students focus on studying more, when the toppers focus on studying right. This is what we call not to study more but to study smart. They study smart hours, not long hours. They study smart hours. Maybe the toppers be studying actually 6 to 7 hours per day, but they are doing it in a smart way, in an active way. So the average student has to have 14 hours, 15 hours per day studying, but their mind is not focused on their study material. So they have to spend more and more time, more and more effort. But the topper gets it in one go because they are putting in the smart effort, the active effort, while they go around with their study material. The next thing that we can discuss is the main structure, the main comparison format, because the main difference I see is the passive and active study method. So average student, they might be reading notes again and again and again, and that's why they need a lot of time to study, 12 to 14 hours per day. And then soon afterward, they might feel, because of the fact that I spend a lot of time reading my study material, I have studied a lot. They might be getting that message, but that is totally false, because the toppers know that. The toppers know exactly that is not the scenario. What they do is they might be hyper focused for an hour or hour and a half period studying on the chapter or the couple of chapters, and then soon afterwards they will test themselves. They will definitely test themselves. They will go through past paper MCQ, structured essay or essays, at least 5 to 6 questions regarding the study material they studied just now. They will test themselves, and then they will answer a couple of questions, 5 to 6 questions, taking 10 to 15 minutes, and then soon afterwards mark their answers as well and then correct themselves. So even after that, they will do that. Following each and every study lesson, they will test themselves with paper questions. And at the end of the day, they will once again go through all the questions they studied throughout the day, the study material and all the questions, so they can refresh their mind. And also, of course, toppers use techniques such as spaced repetition throughout their study period, so they can repetitively remind themselves, recall their study material in spaced intervals. It will stay in the long-term memory rather than in the short-term memory. But right now, you have to focus on studying, active studying, soon afterward, practice questions, and then recalling their questions and answers and study material at the end of the day. That is what toppers do, rather than studying for 14, 15 hours per day. They might be studying 7-8 hours per day, actually 5 to 6 hours a day, but smart study, active study, and questions followed by the study material questions. Because what the average student do is they just study, they just read through and then they feel good. Once again read through and then feel good. That is not the way to study. So second difference I see is the motivation and discipline, because the average students, they are waiting to feel like they have to study, because they are waiting for a moment when I ask them, when they come to me as a doctor, I've already given counseling sessions and coaching sessions to many a number of our board exam students. So when they come to me, their main question is, doctor, I don't feel like studying. Each and every passing day, I don't feel like studying, and I have to push myself to study, because that is what the average student is feeling, because everybody is feeling that. We don't feel like studying every time. When you wake up in the morning until you go to the bed at night, I don't think you ever feel like studying, right? You have to push yourself. That is what the toppers are doing. The average student is waiting for them to feel like studying so that they can study. That is like you are surrendering yourself to your mind, right? Your mind is not at control at all, right? It is not something which should happen for a board exam student. So your actions are depending on your mood. So that is rather unacceptable. But on the case of a topper is they study even without motivation. So they follow a fixed routine pattern. So they know when they get up, they have to study, and they do study. They initiate the action of study. It doesn't matter whatever the mood they are in, doesn't matter their emotions, their motivation is there or not, they study. So motivation is temporary. They will tell you, every topper will tell you that motivation is temporary and systematic routines or patterns are permanent. If you have a habit of studying early in the morning, that is permanent. So that I see as a difference between an average student and a topper. So the chaos and the clarity, this is one of the biggest differences between the toppers and the average students, the chaos and the clarity. Because average students, they have a lot of chaos happening inside themselves and around them, because they try to study everything. When you regard a specific subject, let's say biology, they have to study everything. They feel like they have the need to study everything, including biology, from the first chapter to the last chapter. They have to be able to recall everything. They feel like this. They want to read every chapter, every letter, every word, and they have to be able to recall everything. That is their genuine feeling. So because of that fact, they are feeling overwhelmed always. So but the toppers, they have a good understanding. They have read through, they have gone through the past papers, and they know what are the questions and what are the chapters that we call high weighted chapters. They know what are the high weighted chapters, so they are focusing more on the important chapters. So they know what questions will be asked in their exam year as well. So they select important topics after going through past papers. They come to study the chapters and they select important chapters, and they have a clear plan. They give themselves a considerable amount of time to study those particular chapters, and they know what they are doing. That is the clear difference. They have mental clarity in their work. So clarity reduces stress, and it increases marks. So that is a proportional factor. And the fourth difference that I see between these average students and toppers is time and focus. Because once again, you have to implicate this fact inside your head rather heavily, because average students, they think the more time I study, once again, the more time I spend studying, the more I will able to recall and remind myself in the exam. But that doesn't happen like that, because they study for 6 to 8 hours, they feel good, they take their mobiles out and they scroll up and down, they take breaks in their mobiles, and they have low focus going forward, right? But the toppers, they don't spend 6-7 hours studying. They might be spending 1 hour, 1.5 hours studying certain chapter, certain subject, but that is deeply focused. They don't spend their breaks on their phone scrolling up and down. They take physical breaks. So that you have to take inside your head. It's a mental note that you have to take, because focus beats time always. Fifth difference that I see between the average student and the toppers is the fear and control. Because with students, you have to know, average students, they always they are thinking about the marks, what will happen, what can I do, whether I will pass or not, marks, ranks and others. They are thinking about everything. It's chaos, total chaos. But the toppers, they focus on their daily tasks. They have a clear path. Once again, just like when they're going to study, they know what they have to study, what chapters, what amount of time they should give to those chapters. They have a clear plan. And then of course, towards the exam, they have a clear plan for monthly plan, clear weekly plans, and clear daily plan. And they go by their work task by task. They do not overthink about what will happen at the end of the day, whether I will be able to cover everything by the end of the day. They are not thinking about that. They are thinking about the current task. They are at the present moment. They are present at the present moment. Something that average students should learn. So they are present at the present moment, and they are going throughout their work task by task. So that is very genius, that is very efficient and productive. Psychological truth that you have to know is that your brain doesn't care how long you study, because it cares how often you recall. That is what will brought out towards your long-term memory, because no matter how much you study, if you don't recall, your long-term memory won't be at an advantage, because your long-term memory, it won't be able to put into your long-term memory. It will vanish from your short-term memory. Marks don't come, and you have to remember that marks don't come from effort only, they come from effectiveness. No matter how much effort you put, it will be a waste if the effort is not fruitful. If the effort is not effective, it will be a waste, right? So I can give you a simple action plan. Comment if you need a simple action plan to be a topper. I told you in the beginning of the video, you cannot aim to become a topper. Rather, you should aim not to be an average student. If you evade all the mistakes the average students are making, you will definitely become a topper. So comment if you need action plan from me. I will give you an action plan in the comment section. So if you enjoyed and if you think this video is very valuable, please share it amongst your friends who are taking exams, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next week. Everything is valuable to everyone. So please like, share, comment, and please join with us once again with another video. This is Dr. DD India and I'm Dr. DD. Until next time, cheers.